Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Neil McKenzie, Director of Marketing here at Universal Furniture, and welcome to our Learning Center. We've had a number of events here this week during fall market. It's been a different market experience than usual, but everybody's been doing what they can to make the most of it, and we're excited to have you all back in the spring, hopefully under some better conditions. Today we're excited to have our last event. We're having our good friend Carisha Swanson, market editor from House Beautiful. She is a friend of the company, a lover of food, and really a world traveler who has a great perspective on the industry. Carisha is going to have the opportunity to sit down with our partner and friend Miranda Kerr. We partnered with Miranda about two and a half years ago on Love, Joy, Bliss, and it's been off to a great success, and we're really excited about a lot of the elements that were incorporated into the collection. And you can actually preview the entire collection on our website, and also check out a sneak peek of how Miranda's incorporated the pieces into her home in Malibu. Today they're going to sit down and talk a little bit about kind of creating that sense of sanctuary in your own home. I think it's something everyone can relate to right now with what's been going on, but there's some great perspective. Miranda studied in wellness and offers a great perspective into kind of creating almost kind of that little Zen environment in your own space. I hope you enjoy this pre-recorded conversation with Carisha and Miranda. Thank you again for joining us.
How are you, Miranda?
Good. Do I say Carisha?
Carisha, yep, you got it. So Miranda, I know that you obviously started working at a really young age, at the age of 13, I believe. And so when you do that, it feels like home becomes even more important because you were already traveling around. What were kind of your fondest memories of coming back home that made you feel connected to your home space and to being back with your family?
Well, home to me, I know it sounds like cliche, but it's always really been where I've felt the most nurtured. Like coming home, I feel like it really is where my heart is. And even though I was traveling a lot, so I started modeling at 13, but then I didn't start traveling until I was 18 because I didn't want to interrupt school. So I made sure I graduated school first. And so when I would go away on trips to Japan or Paris or New York, when I came home, whether on like to go and see my family, I just would always just feel like, oh, this is so cozy. My mum had this little pillow on my bed. It said, let your little light shine. She also liked to do, it's called, what is it called, where you stitch on the little roses. It's, you know, when you stitch, when you use the cotton and you make
Needlepoint.
Needlepoint. Yeah, I guess it's a form of needlepoint where she actually made the rose. It's not like she like got a little rose and stitched it on. She made the rose. Anyway, she did a lot of that for me in my bedroom. So all those little details, it felt very nurturing to come home and have that personal touch. And also she's a really great cook. So coming home to her cooking is something that to me just really feels, you know, nourishing in more ways than just physically nourishing. It felt like, you know, emotionally nourishing. I felt like very nurtured. And interestingly enough, as soon as my little 9-year-old comes back home to me, because if he's with his dad, then he comes back home to me, he's like, Mom, can you please, you know, make me this? Can you please? And I'm like, yes, darling. And it's the same thing now that I'm doing, obviously for my family and my children, is like making them feel nurtured and cared for. By the way, I love that design of the wallpaper behind.
Oh, thank you. This is actually, I don't know if you've heard of this company called Temp Paper, one word.
I actually used a different type of fabric wallpaper in the back of my bedroom in Malibu right here. And so it's like these big panels of wallpaper, but
I love it.
My grandmother actually got me into wallpaper because she's quite a big fan of wallpaper.
Well, wait, so that's like a perfect segue then, because one of the things I wanted to know is you do have kind of, is it 2 homes that you frequent between Australia and Malibu?
Well, I have my home in Malibu and my home, so I have my home in Malibu, which I had before I got married. And then I have my home with my husband in Brentwood. And then we have a home in Australia as well.
So when you think about, I mean, you know, when you're talking about creating home as sanctuary, that this is clearly an important thing for you, and you want that nurturing feeling in all of your homes. Yeah. So what is there some element that you have to have in every single space that makes you feel like I'm home and not just kind of in another destination?
Yeah, there are a few things. Definitely framed photos, definitely fresh flowers. And they can literally be just picked from the garden. I love it when flowers look like you've literally just picked a few random wildflowers from the garden, when it's not too perfect. Mm-hmm. And even sometimes, like, you can bring in some of the leaves and trees, like, because I'm out here in Malibu, I like sometimes bring some of that greenery in, which I really feel you know, it just brings the outside in. And I think that makes spaces feel more nurturing, to me at least. Books and teacups and throws also add that homey feeling, and candles, as you can see a candle going back there.
Even in the daytime, which I love, because sometimes people reserve candlelight for the evenings, but I love the ambiance that it adds any time of the day.
I do too. And what's interesting is I read somewhere quite a while back that staring at the candlelight or a flame balances the right and left hemispheres of the brain. And there's like different meditations you can do by just like zoning out and looking at the flame. So
I would like to zone out and not be looking at a computer screen all the time, right?
Yeah, right? So imagine like you just have a candle burning over here to your right, and you just like someone's chatting and you're like, yes, yes. Meanwhile, balancing the right and left hemispheres by staring into the flame.
So are tips like this, you know, you started your Wellness Wednesdays.
Oh yes.
Are tips like this things that you like to incorporate into that? Why did you even think of starting this to begin with?
Yeah, it was interesting because when we're in such uncertain times and everyone is feeling anxious about their health, you know, which is obviously necessary, and I wanted to help in whatever small way that I could. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that was one thing that I could do that was free, that people could come and learn some wellness tips from people that I've found, and some tools from different experts in the industry that I have found really helpful, and that maybe other people have never thought of before. And so they might be able to come and join and learn, whether it be a different type of meditation or talking about like different healthy recipes or different ways to do yoga or exercise, things that people know, like, okay, on a Wednesday, I can join in my lunch break. I did it specifically at like midday. Well, that's our daytime, but also put it around my kids' nap schedule because, yeah.
I think that's fair.
So I was like, okay, I know I can just dedicate that one little thing to help promote just some wellness and some, hopefully, like, inspire people to take care of themselves more, because it's really important, especially now more than ever.
I completely agree with you. And I think that's like the universal truth. We are all at home, but we almost have to, now have the opportunity to take better care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And we should. We should. And part of that's environmental, but part of that clearly has to do with what we're doing internally as well, which is equally important.
Yeah. I really believe in that whole mind, body, spirit connection, and different things work for different people. But that's why I like to keep the dialogue open and talk about different things with different individuals from all over the world that have incredible experiences with simple tools that we can all incorporate, that are accessible and you're able to do at home. Like, something that's not out of touch or out of reach for anyone to be able to incorporate into their life.
Well, when you thought about this collection that you did with Universal and decided to name it Love, Joy, Bliss, I have to imagine that those words meant so much more to you than even some of the things we've heard you talk about. But when you think about those words, are there little rituals that you do for yourself or for your family that kind of inspire these words?
Yeah, I really believe in the power of words. There's a doctor, Dr. Masaru Emoto, who was a Japanese doctor who studied the molecular structure of words, and there's been a lot of other further studies about the power of words, and how even there was this study that I think it was like, it was done with different plants. I'm not sure if you heard about it, at a school, and there was, in the same environment, right, you had two different plants. One that was told, like, whenever the students pass it, to say loving things to this plant and give loving vibrations to this plant and appreciation. The other one was told to be ignored or say something negative to that plant when you walked past. So they did this study for, I don't know exactly how long, if it was a month or so, and the one on the right was thriving, and the one on the left that was told the negative things shriveled up and died. And they've done these studies with rice, like bags of rice, where they say loving things to a bag of rice. Then they did it with 3 different ones. Then they ignore one bag of rice, and then they say negative things to another bag of rice. The one that they say positive things to, it was like perfect, and the other one, just the one in the middle, was like a little bit moldy here and there, and then the negative one was like all like full of mold and things. So that being said, all I believe is, I personally feel that we're all energy and energetic beings, whether it be, you know, as human beings, we're energetic, and then as plants, and even like the little grain of rice, and even water has an energy to it. So as Dr. Masaru Emoto was studying the structure of the water, when a positive word was said to it, and it made like a perfect crystalline snowflake-like shape, or a negative word after it's frozen and put under the microscope, and then a negative word was frozen and then put under, like said to the water, and then frozen and put under the microscope. And even when they wrote, even not even said it to it, but they wrote the word on the actual water droplet. And so if they wrote like something negative and then they looked at it, it was all like disformed and like wasn't a complete beautiful structure. And so that's why I named the collection Love, Joy, Bliss, because I do believe that our words hold a different energy, and that intention is felt. So I wanted to bring the love and joy and bliss into people's homes. And that is my intention, actually, with anything that I've designed in my life, to bring about that uplifting energy. So with my skincare line, Cora Organics, there's a positive word on the back of the products. And I have a whole list of the positive words, and I was quite specific about which word went with which product. And also all the products through filtered through rose quartz, to bring about that nurturing, loving, positive energy. And so everything I do has an intention, and the furniture collection is a part of that, a part of my life, and a part of my philosophy of infusing that love and that joy and that bliss into people's lives and into their experience. And it has the tag of love, joy, bliss on the actual furniture piece itself. So it helps translate that and actually bring it into the home.
I think that's great, because when you think about the power of words, it does have meaning, and it does travel beyond just your mouth, right? Words have power. And so the idea that you're trying to bring those feelings of positivity into the home through the collection that you've built with those words as a driving force is a way that you're kind of putting that positive energy into somebody's home. Yeah. When you are home alone, which I don't really know if that exists for you. Does that exist ever? Do you ever have moments of solitude?
Well, at night when the children are asleep, because I have an 11-month-old, a 2-year-old, and a 9-year-old.
Right.
And a husband.
Number 4.
Yeah. Number 4.
The 4th kid. Yeah.
4 boys to take care of. And my grandma said a funny thing to me, actually. She said, Miranda, I know how much you love your children and you want to like always give them all your love. But she says, don't forget about your husband. He has to be given, you know, just as much love as the children, like give him as much love and appreciation. And she actually told me like, make sure you give him a little bit more. And I was like, my kids, you know, I mean, everything, like, you know, as a parent, you know that your children and also your partner mean everything, but it was important advice. So it was important advice that my grandma gave me to make sure that you are putting as much love and attention, because it can be very busy with little kids. And my grandma, she had 4 children of her own. And she said, it's really important that you put just as much, if not more, love and attention into your partner. And so I think that was really important.
So are your quiet moments like with him, or do you?
Yes, my moments with him, which is, and we love each other's company, thank goodness, because at the end of the day, when the kids are asleep and we have that time together, it's really important. And that's why my husband, interestingly enough, has a rule. He's like, no kids in the bed. Whereas before I met him, you know, I would always be like, of course, come in, like for Flynn whenever he wanted, like,
yeah,
come and snuggle with mommy. And my husband's like, no kids in the bed unless it's absolutely necessary. This is our time. I'm like, you know what? That's actually a good boundary. That's fair. I get it.
And you did say you were building the bedroom collection around love, right? Yeah. And so while it extends to the kids, obviously with your husband, that's a different experience. Yeah. And so when you think about your family time, what are those things that like connect you to the kids when you guys can just all be together, not doing schoolwork or not kind of, you know, just playing on the floor? What are the things that connect you?
Well, we loved, like we have, right here. So in our home in Brentwood, we have a room where the kids have like all their toys out. They have the squishy mat, you know, so we can all be there together. They have a bunch of books because we're very big at reading books at home. And even the little one loves it when he's 11 months old and I'll like turn the page and read him books and like put my finger in the little puppet thing that's inside the book. And like, he thinks it's funny and then he tries to grab it. And my 2-year-old will sit there and literally just like tell himself the story, even though he doesn't know how to read yet, he will tell himself the story. And my 9-year-old just like goes through books like that. He just gets lost in books because, thanks again to my husband, who's a lot more boundaried and strict than what I am. He's like, no TV, you know, and unless it's like maybe the weekend, and then Flynn gets like an hour, and you know, then it's like one movie or something, you know, as a special treat, but not for the little ones at all, ever is that allowed. So it's like, it's really instilled into them like that relaxation comes from like being involved in like a really great book. And then also with my 9-year-old, we love to play games. He, you know, he loves like the simple game of like Trouble, you know, that little game of Trouble. And he loves playing Monopoly. He actually really is quite a whiz at maths, my 9-year-old. And so he loves to be the banker and, you know, play Monopoly. And he thinks it's hilarious when he wins and beats Evan. And, you know, that's something fun that we get to do. And then my 2-year-old is obsessed with cars, like any kind of car and we have a little ball pit as well, which I got him for his birthday, an indoor ball pit. And the 2-year-old and the 11-month-old are in the ball pit, and it's quite funny.
So when you kind of you have an active family,
and my 2-year-old is the most active. It's crazy.
A 2-year-old little boy, yes. So when you were thinking about designing this collection for Universal, were you thinking about your own family life, or were you kind of expanding what you've always wanted, or did you kind of imagine somebody using this furniture?
So truth be told, I wanted to create these pieces that I wanted in my own home. And I had always envisioned, like when I saw, so what was interesting with my home here in Malibu, I had already custom made a lot of pieces because I wasn't able to find things that I liked. And I worked with this woman and she's like, well, I know this guy who like makes chairs. And so if you draw the design, he can make them for you. Or my old bed head, I designed that. And like even some of the sofas that I used to have here now, but now I have my Miranda Kerr home collection, which is super exciting.
Yes.
So I had already been like designing before I was designing like on a mass level. I'd already been designing the pieces I wanted and choosing the fabrics and making them at home for myself.
Did you ever work with a designer yourself on any of your homes, or have you always kind of designed them independently?
I worked with, so this lady who helped me, she helped with like the construction of the house because I completely like blew it out. So she did interiors and stuff. So she would give me like, here are your options, or this is what, like, gave her like a vision board, and then she would go out and get the actual different ideas and fabrics and be like, well, what about this? And I would be yes or no. So I was very specific. And then with my home in Brentwood, I worked with a lady who actually worked with me on one of my on like set design for Royal Albert. So because I designed a lot of teacups and dishware for Royal Albert, Royal Dalton, and I was like, oh, you've got a good eye. Can you work with me to help collect some ideas and create you know, a vision? And then I go through and I'm like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Like it just basically a time factor, because in an ideal world I could research and have all this time to look and see options available, but I don't have that time. So I just
But you know what, you've always known what you've liked, and you always knew what you wanted. And so when it came to designing this collection and you're thinking about, you know, the things that you've always wanted, especially as somebody that's already custom designed things, when you're thinking about a family, you know, here you are with your husband and your 3 boys. Boys just by their nature are boisterous. You have to have furniture that can
stand it. Let me tell you, this is why I'm so impressed with the actual performance-based fabric that we've incorporated into this, because I got to see it the other day firsthand with my little one and his sippy cup, which, you know, literally was like right here on this sofa spilt. And
a white sofa.
I'm like, this is great. And I run and I just see it, like, it literally just like drops off there, and I like get a wipe and it just completely comes off. And I was like, this is amazing.
That's real life. That's real life. Yes.
And my little 11-month-old with his teether, you know, which he's like going around and putting his hands on everything, and I just wipe it off and it's amazing. And then my 9-year-old, when I'm not looking and he comes inside the house and just like sits on the sofa with his feet up there and without taking his shoes off, I'm like, oh. It's really important to have these performance-based fabrics, and they're so good for the family.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know I said like, oh, I wanted to create these pieces for what I specifically wanted, but obviously I was thinking of my family as well, and the fact that it needs to work for all of us. Like, see the soft round edge here?
Yes.
And the same with the other table behind me.
No sharp edges, basically.
Yeah, basically limiting those sharp edges. You've got the you know, the different end tables that, and then also the fabrics that are used.
You know, I feel like sometimes, you know, one of the things I think you've done so successfully is when people think about designing for their family home, they sometimes forget about the design factor. They want to buy the thing like, oh, the kids are going to beat it up, so we don't want to spend any real money on this, right? And it's like, actually, that's where you invest your money, is in those spaces that you can have beautiful design and and pieces that function in the same space and that work for a family. But when the kids are in bed, you could still entertain and have it be the adult space that you want to be in. You can't wait 20 years until the kids are out of the house to live beautifully.
No, functionality is super important, and practicality. But at the same time, I don't feel like you have to have one or the other. You can have both, and this collection is a combination of both that functionality and the elegance and that beauty that people are wanting to have, that coziness in their home.
Well, and so the other thing too is, you talk a lot, environment is very important to you. So the space that you're in, while this collection can live in homes like this in North Carolina, where there's space to breathe, there's also pieces that really work successfully in smaller spaces. Sometimes those are pieces that can do more than one thing, that can move with you when you move. Other times they're just pieces that work so functionally well in any space. And I always feel like small space ideas translate into any home because you always have that awkward little corner or that little nook that you don't know what to do with it. So in your collection, which pieces would you say kind of have that the ability to work well in a small space, but also translate?
So the beautiful dining table, the glass top, the Lovejoy Bliss dining table with the geometric shape underneath it. I have it now in the little kitchen nook right behind me, and it's such a small space, but it is so beautiful because the light comes through and the space feels a lot bigger having that table there than opposed to like even a smaller table because of the space that the clear, the glass and
Right.
the light and the air going through. And it just feels like a beautiful design as well with that gold geometric shape.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that looks good in like a smaller room or a bigger room. And I just feel like a lot of these pieces can go, as you said, with you into different spaces. So for instance, the runway console piece, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the runway. It can be in your family room and you could have it as like underneath the TV. It'd be great to stack things underneath there. And then also you could have it in your dining room to put like plates and dishes and things like that. So these pieces, originally I'd thought like love for the bedroom, joy for like the dining area, and then bliss for the living area. But then I realized I want to infuse love, joy, bliss into every area. And so these pieces are interchangeable. And for instance, the Brentwood chair that I have here behind me, I'm just keep talking about this one, but it's the one behind there. I also have that. I was so obsessed with that chair and the ottoman that I have it in my bedroom as well. And so it works. I have two of them, but you wouldn't even be able to tell if you like walk through the house that they're even necessarily the same chair because they look different in different spaces. And it's such a practical chair. And when I designed the whole collection, my whole intention was that these pieces were timeless and that they could stand the test of time, but also were elegant enough to like really uplift the room when you walk into it. But I wanted them to be like literally pieces that like I can hand down to my children, and so they're like,
yeah,
they're beautiful enough to kind of keep forever, and they won't, the shapes and the simplicity of it all is elevated enough to kind of stand the test of time. And the wood grain detail, like when you see these pieces in person, they're so much more interesting than when you're looking online at them. Like the wood grain detail that I specifically like hand drew, like I want, like on the beautiful leaf table that you can see, there's a dining room table that I have behind that wood grain, and then on the back of the chairs I drew the wood grain on that, but different surfaces that come to life when you see them in person and you look at them like more deeply.
I feel like that's the key to great design, is it's not that you walk into a room and are smacked across the face with with design. It's in the subtleties and the things that make pieces classic, is that they don't smack you in the face, that they're so elegantly achieved, and it's really about the detail and the nuances of those pieces that makes them last forever. And one of the things I was struck by is while your pieces are classic, some of the shapes are very much now, right? But I think the reason maybe they work and feel like they can last forever is because you took shapes and forms and textures from nature, and nature isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the whole basis for the geometric shapes comes from the rose quartz crystals, and that inspiration, well, crystals in general, and the inspiration behind the crystal's natural form, and how could I translate that into this collection. And yeah, it's great that you made that parallel, because it makes, yeah, it's bringing that timelessness of these natural pieces of crystal and bringing that into the collection. I honestly, I mean, I feel like they will be timeless pieces forever.
Yeah, I truly do feel, because of the way you've brought it together, they will be, you know.
The fine legs. I'm very crazy about the detail on the legs of every piece.
Do you have a favorite piece? Like, if you have to, you know, like, this is kind of like picking out your favorite child, which I know is very impossible. But like, if there's one piece, do you have a favorite piece from the collection that you're just like, this can live in anybody's space so well? Definitely. Or just one that you just are just, you know, it hit, like it was everything you ever wanted out of a piece?
Well, everything I ever wanted out of a piece is the runway console, because it's a beautiful gem-like piece. The colors are so neutral and versatile. It can go in any space and be used in versatile ways. Like, maybe if you're in one house, it can be used as a runway console. But if you move houses and you want to use it as, you know, your TV stand, and then if you move house again and you want to put it in your dining room, it's a very versatile piece, and it's so beautiful and timeless. And I love the taupe lacquer detail and the beautiful wood, I mean, the beautiful gold detailed legs. But I also am obsessed with as I was saying, the dining room table, and that the beauty that you can extend it, or you can make it larger or smaller. And the actual wood grain detail on that is so beautiful in real life. Mm-hmm. I'm just impressed by the way that the finishes came out and came to life, because I had a vision in my head, and not always does your vision in your head come to life as much as you want it to in the actual pieces in the end. Sure. But this really did come to life for me at the end, and it has the beautiful gold detail at the foot of that. Talk about the subtle details of a piece of furniture, and it just makes me feel really happy. But one piece I feel that people would just never go wrong with is that Brentwood chair, because it's cozy. You sit in it, you can put it anywhere. You get the ottoman, the Brentwood chair and the ottoman to go with it. You've got basically your own little mini sofa. Here I like to sit and watch the sunset on that sofa with like a beautiful cup of tea and enjoy that. And then I also have it in my bedroom if I want to snuggle up and read a book. So it's a very cozy chair, and it's quite wide, like wide enough to even fit, like my kids jump on there with me.
You may not have had this problem coming up, but my first apartment, I had to choose which room to design first. And so when you think about, you know, your space now, or like the evolution of your design style, is there a room of the house that is your favorite, that when you first get there, this is the room that has to be completed first for you to feel at home?
So my first living spaces were model apartments shared with, like, I remember my first living space in Japan was sharing a 2-bedroom apartment with, you know, 5 different models. So first thing I did was like clean the place top to toe, because I believe like cleanliness is so important, and tidied everything. And I was like, what is all this mess doing here? And just got a fresh bunch of flowers and lit a candle. And I was like, okay, I can relax a little bit more now. Then when I actually got my own living place in New York, and I was living alone in a little loft. There wasn't like there wasn't another room. So it was just like my bedroom was in one corner and then my sofa was in the other side of the room. And I was like, and then my desk was opposite that. So I just made that space cozy. And I remember just going to like, you know, get like the cheapest curtains that I could, but they were great. Like they were like, it looked like velvet, but it wasn't. It was just like a cheaper type of navy velvet. And then the white like shears behind it. I was like, this is perfect. And like getting like a, you know, like a cheaper type of sofa, and I was just really proud of it. And then just keeping those clean lines and keeping it simple, and then adding like pops of color here and there.
Right. So now that you are an adult, right, with your whole family, what are the rooms in your house that are kind of the most important when you think about, you know, you go into a space, when you first walk into your home, is it your bedroom that you love the most? Is it your living room? Where is your like favorite place in your homes?
Oh, I love this living space here because it is so, I love like the coziness of it. I love the open air space of it. I've separated these rooms so it's almost like it's separated by like the sofas in a way, but it's all like one big room with the living and the dining together.
Right.
And the kitchen all in one here. But because I have these big open windows, it's bringing like that outdoors in, and it just feels, you know, really cozy. And then that's the other side of it here. So I love this living space and the air that is around it. And if I was to like walk you through, it feels like squished here because you can't see the whole space, but it when you walk in, it feels lovely.
Is there any piece, you know, you've talked about your favorite pieces in the collection, from the chair to the dining room to that sofa to the dining table. Is there any piece that you are desperate to add to it? That you're like, now that the collection is done, this is one thing that I really wish I could add to the collection?
No, I'm pretty thorough.
That's a fair answer. You're like, no, I thought about everything.
Yeah, no, I feel pretty good about where we're at. Yeah, I wish that I could to be fair, I wish that we could do outdoor furniture. Because I'm also a big lover of that, but we are in the inside of the home at the moment with Universal. So, you know.
Miranda, a lot of people, of course, have spaces that are already designed. And so, but they're looking for upgrades, right? They want a refresher. They want to be able to add something that feels like they've done something in their space to kind of bring it into now, or to just make it feel slightly different. What are the pieces in your collection that are just easy to kind of integrate into somebody's existing design?
Yeah, there are so many pieces. Because the collection is quite has a neutral palette, they can interchange and interweave with what other people already have. So whether that be a beautiful geo end table, that it will just add that different dimension that maybe someone hasn't achieved in their home, and it'll just be like that subtle, interesting aspect that may not have been there before. Or whether that be even just, for instance, like refreshing your bed head can make all the difference. And the beautiful Malibu bed head I am obsessed with because of the white lacquer and the actual subtlety and the beauty of the lines that are incorporated into that piece. It adds that dimension of interesting but not overwhelming. And that's what I really love. And then also pieces like the Lovejoy Bliss round table. And then also desks. Everyone's working from home right now. Right. You can see behind me, I have the desk at my entryway of my house. I'm using that as like a console wall.
Yeah.
And it looks beautiful with the mirror behind it. And that mirror could also look beautiful in the bathroom. these pieces are so versatile as to where they can be placed in your home and how they can be used. That desk is really, really stunning piece.
And it's so great that you have that, because I feel like so many collections, like over the past few years, people have stopped adding desk in. You know, it's more like consoles that maybe you could pull up to because we don't have all the computer equipment we used to have. But now it's like we need a dedicated space. And one of the things that I'll say I love the most about your collection too, or I can't say the most, but one of the things I love as well is a better way to put it, is that you got the scale right. And it feels like the scale that you have for the entire collection really makes it versatile as well. Like that is key, that nothing feels overwhelming or like it's going to take over a space, that it can really work in a multitude of locations.
Yeah. And then at the same time, the practicality aspect of it, like the functionality aspect of it. So for instance, the bar cabinet behind me with the mother of pearl inlay is so beautiful that one of my friends, her daughter wants to have that as her closet in her bedroom. And her mum's like, well, is that possible? And I was like, for sure. She could fold clothes and have her clothes in there, and it's got drawers if she wants to put her socks in there and whatnot. But I've got it in here as my bar cabinet, and it's interchangeable that way, and they can be used in different rooms. And maybe as she gets older, she will use it then as a bar cabinet when she moves out. You know, she's thinking of the future. Yeah. Like, I'm going to buy this.
Your daughter has great taste.
Yeah, he has incredible taste, and it has the beautiful shape there with the soft gold detail, and yes. Yeah.
So final question, and you have to name 5. 5 top things that bring you love, joy, and bliss.
Oh, wow. My family, just like spending time with them is everything. Being out in nature. It brings me so much love, like so much happiness in my heart when I know that I can make someone else happy or like make their day. Now I'll get all teary because it does. Like if I know that I've brought like some positivity into someone's life, or helped them in some small way. Sorry, getting emotional. And then flowers bring me so much love, joy, bliss, and taking a bath.
Ooh.
One more, sorry, food.
Favorite food?
At the moment it's weird, but I'm really into potatoes. Steamed, baked, air dried. Like I'm a potato girl.
I love potatoes. That's not weird.
I mean weird in a way of like it's a simple food, but it's just so comforting to me. And
you have a sweet treat?
A sweet treat? I do. I made these really incredible healthy no-bake cookies on Wellness Wednesday, and they're really delicious, and it has cacao and coconut sugar and shredded coconut, and you can see the recipe on there, but it was delicious, and my 2-year-old went nuts for them.
So at least you know you're giving a sweet that's good for the 2-year-old.
Yeah, and then you've just got like oats in there. So I mean,
you're sneaking in the healthfulness.
Yeah.
Miranda, thank you so much for your time today. I feel like I understand you. I understand your collection. I absolutely love that before all of this happened in the world, you were thinking about people's homes from the point of them feeling better in their space and bringing positive energy into people's homes. And I think that's all anybody should want out of their space, is a space that makes them feel good every day. So thank you for your time.
I do have one more thing to share with you.
Oh yeah.
This is also a wonderful piece for everyone.
That goes anywhere.
Goes anywhere. See, I'm using that as a little stool now.
It's the new Zoom stool. So
Zoom stool.
That also gives you good posture. No, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Enjoy the rest of your day, Miranda.
Thank you. You too. I appreciate it.